What is good, you guys? Just hitting you up with a little bit of a short video today. Just a little quick update. Pretty much disaster happened last week. So last week Friday, I was having in the middle of my best month ever. I was up 6K on the month, just under 3 full trading weeks. Things were going good, and then disaster happened, and I'm just gonna go over that, exactly what happened, kind of my mindset going through. So pretty much this happened on Friday, December 18th, and as you can see, the QQQ has been on a hell of a run up to that point. You know, we had broken out of all-time highs, and we were just going on a run. We had that one pullback day, that one big pullback day, and then the thing just kept going as if it was nothing. It's like it just picked up where it left off, picked up the pieces, and just grinded its way back, all green days. So going into this day, I was ready for a pullback. So it's not like what ended up happening was totally unexpected. I saw the way that this thing was trending upward. I track data daily for the QQQ, so I know, just based on the stats, that every so often when you have movement like this where it just keeps going up, you're going to have a day where it just has a massive pullback, just a massive steep drop without these crazy bounces that you get, and you can play off the dips almost every day. So this was also ending the week, and I was already hitting my daily minimums each day, 400 a day, and in fact I was exceeding my daily minimums. So I was almost up. I think I was up about 2K already at that point in 4 days. So going into that, so I was already meeting my pretty much at my weekly goals as well. That being said, I still played it, and I still messed up. So what ended up happening is I was playing the dips like I always do. I dip buy options for the QQQ, and I got faked out multiple times. You see, it failed the first bounce, started accumulating basing here, failed this one, reclaimed here, but this one failed. So first, second, third bounce failed, and then the fourth worked out. Now, if you look at this, and anyone who's zip buying, well, you just take the paper cuts on the way down, you size in here, and then you make back what you lost here, since you have more range. And if you look at this, obviously hindsight's 2020, you make your money back here, and then when it pulls back here, you capitalize on this dip as well, all the way up to VWAP. So you're definitely going to make back everything you lost on the way down when you have this bounce and this bounce. However, I did not, my execution was just completely off. Usually on the way down, I like to recycle shares. And I learned about recycling shares from Madass. He's a pretty popular trader on Twitter. Pretty much what that entails is when you take the dip, let's say you mess up, let's say the first one you start sizing in, but then it goes lower than you intended it to, you recycle shares. So you cut some of your position, and then you add shares to replace the shares that you cut, and pretty much bring your share price lower. So the average price of the shares you holding, you bring that lower. So it's kind of like an intelligent way of averaging down. So you're not just completely going in with building up too much size than you can handle. Instead, you're keeping an allocated size, and you're cutting and adding within that allocated size. And I also like to, in addition, keep a core size with that, but that's a topic for another video. But anyways, rather than recycling, because I was doing so good on the week, and because I was up 6K, it wasn't even just an ego thing. It was like I just wanted to hold on to that profit. I'm doing so good right now. I'm on a green streak. Like, I'm on the biggest green streak that I've ever been on. Like, the whole month green. So I will not tolerate a red day at this point. And that's a bad thing. You know, when you go on a streak, when everything's working out, the last thing you want is to be shown you're wrong. Like, yeah, I'll take a red trade here and there, but I have a red day, especially after that, then it brings my mindset to, now I have to make that back. plus, even though I'm meeting my daily requirements, those are still roughly like the daily minimum. So I need 400 a day to be a six-figure trader. But if I make just that 400 a day, then lose 200 on a day, then the next day I have to make the 400 plus the 200 I lost, which is obviously not a good, smart mindset to have. Instead of recycling for the losses, I recycled once on the way down. So you can see here, I was taking the calls. I took a little bit of profit at first because the first bounce started to work, and then when it failed, I cut here. I cut 3 contracts here. I think I took like a $50-$60 loss, something like that. That was at 9:43. So after the first bounce failed, I never cut any time after that. Instead, and again, I was doing this and I was justifying it by saying that because of my strategy, we mostly see the return to VWAP, you know, I'll be okay. But the problem is, even though I know based on keeping track what is likely to happen by midday, I also knew going into this day that this could be a bad day, a big pullback day for the market, just seeing how the trend has been going. This has been due for a little while. So I knew that I had to be careful, and yet it's like I knew what was going to happen and I still didn't execute accordingly. It just goes to show you that right when I think things are going great for me and I have things figured out, I'm about to reach that next level, getting ever so close to the upper echelon of traders, I get hit with a huge blowback. So anyways, I am just adding little more sides a little bit here and there. So because I didn't recycle, I'm accumulating sides the whole time, which means that my average share price still remains high. And then what ended up happening was, by the time that I caught more at the bottom here, my average price was so bad that when it peaked only 2 cents above my average price. So I only took off a couple contracts. And then you can see what happened. It consolidated here, then it pulled back again. After this failed, this should have been a sign like, no, it's time to cut this. Like, this is clearly not working out. It's clearly weak. It didn't break through once. Cut and then just recycle. Take a grand loss if you have to. Take 1,500 loss. I didn't do that. And now I just added more. And then now my average price is still so bad that when it finally got to here, it was still about maybe 5-10 cents away from my average price. So I didn't do nothing. I didn't want to take the loss. So I'm like, okay, cool. We're almost at VWAP. In the afternoon, we'll get a nice run. In fact, now I have more than 30 contracts. So I'll be making 10 cents plus on each contract. So at minimum, I'm making 300 on this. Imagine if it keeps running back up. I make 20 cents, and with 30 contracts, this might be a big day for me. I might be making like 600-700. I could turn this around. No, the market, just like I had a feeling, just like I saw based on the overall trend, was very weak today. It pulled back, and I'm still like, all right, you know, it bounces off VWAP, but that's what usually happens. You know, we get a VWAP reject, then it curls, sets up like a kind of like a cup and handle, and it sets up, and then it'll break through the next time. That didn't happen. We got weakness, and then it headed back to lows. By the end of the day, it was all the way down here. Huge grind down, like just breaking to new lows, right into power hour, right into the last 30 minutes. I felt so sick to my stomach, like so awful, because unrealized at this point I was down about 6K, and that's US. Oh no, I think it was 6K Canadian. Yeah. But yeah, I was down over 6K, so I would have lost everything I worked so hard for in the month. All the strides I was making would have been gone in one day, just because I was being so stubborn. I was ignoring the signs. I just didn't want to take a big red day. I didn't want to be caught taking losses on the way down. I just wanted this to work. So my execution was just, it was poor. There's nothing else really to say. It was my execution is very poor, and my psychology with how I handle this was definitely undisciplined. So I felt so awful, so sick that I couldn't even watch this. I went to bed to lie down. I just felt terrible. I'm like, so since this is a Friday, what I usually do on Fridays is I buy contracts that expire the week after, just to have some leeway in case situations happen where it doesn't work out. And plus, the contracts are so like worthless on the last days, get closer to expiry date, that sometimes, let's say I take contracts at 9:30 and I hold them all the way till like 11. They on the last day they lose their value so much faster. So that's why I get contracts expire the week after. So I don't have contracts that are losing their value too fast. Still though, because I had these in the morning, I had them all day. Even though this came back to where it was before, where I was previously up 2 cents, when it came back here, I was down 5 to 10 cents. So it goes to show you that time decay is still hurt me. So when it was down here and I went to bed, I went back downstairs to go get. I went back to my basement where my setup is to go get some water. I went and looked at the screen, and I saw what was happening. I'm like, I think I had checked my phone briefly in bed and saw that it was at lows, and I saw it in like just the chart, and I'm like, holy smoke, this is awful. Like, it was over 6K in the red, unrealized. And then, boom, I literally got saved. Unbelievable. Like, I think it was because Tesla was being added to the S&P 500. So I think there was a lot of calls that went through for that. So Tesla had made a big contribution. But not only did it go all the way up here, it made it all the way back to where my average price was. And this was right at the close. So in the 2 minutes after the close, I pretty much sold off everything. I was selling for, and at this point, so one thing I forgot to say is, as it went lower and lower, I was adding more to the point that I had maxed out my account size in this. I had maxed it all the way up to, so with Interactive Brokers, you have a maintenance amount, and then the excess liquidity that you're allowed to play with. And the maintenance is determined based on the positions you currently hold. So I had used up all my excess liquidity, so I couldn't even add more. So I think I had like 50-55 contracts. So when it hit here, I was selling for a cent, couple cent, 3 cents up. Ended up walking away with $60 on the trade. It was relieving, but at the same time, it was a huge reality check. I knew I'd have to do a discipline check on the weekend that followed. Unbelievable. And the thing is, it could have been played so much differently. I'd accumulated 65 contracts, and you could see, literally at 403 to 404, I knocked that all off. I think my average price at this point, because I had brought it down throughout the day, must have been like 270. Well, it must have been like 280, 281. I just got so lucky. It's just pure luck that this happened. I got a saving grace, like an opportunity to this wouldn't have blown up my account. I would have lost all the profits on a month, but at the same time, this is my biggest month. Like, before that, I was up around 4K the month before, and then before that I was only making like a 1K a month. So I'm not really in a space to be losing money. Plus, I'm still paying off the debt that I took earlier in the year to fund my account. So while I didn't blow up, it would have been still a huge setback in terms of my overall lifestyle right now and the financial position I'm in. But I got saved, and it made me realize, like, this weekend I have to do a discipline check. If I don't learn from this, and if I don't act upon this and change the way that I'm approaching these trades, then this opportunity I got, like, it's an opportunity for me to just to reevaluate what I've been doing. This opportunity will just go to waste. And I was still in my mind, like, just kind of being that greedy trader. I was still thinking, like, because I was just frantically selling, putting orders to sell so fast. I only got 5 contracts when it went to 289, which is like 9 cents up. So if I sold most of them up at 289, that would have been like 400 more. And I was kind of thinking about that too. But in this position I'm in, I'm not afforded that privilege. Let's be honest. So what I did is I looked back at this situation over the weekend, and I just looked at it like, you know, with a clear mind after what had happened. Obviously, I was very happy. Like, I'm very relieved. Like, man, like, 6K, holy smokes. And look at what happened the Monday after. Because I was considering holding some. I'm like, after the strength, I'm like, okay, maybe I should just hold some contracts for Monday if it's like this and get a gap up and then even more. But I'm like, no, I'll just close this position. Let me get this off my mind. The Monday, it gapped down and it went further down. So I could have been facing 9K loss. Holy smokes, which could have been even worse. Like, I don't even know how I reacted. Like, it would have left a burning feeling in my heart. Like, this would have been the most miserable Christmas ever, straight up. We did it did come back up though. But this is the level where I pretty much needed it to be. At 310. And it struggled to reach that level all week. And with the time decay, I would have had to swallow a loss. So I would have probably had to swallow, even if I waited, at least 10-20 cents on 60 contracts. That's still about a grand loss. Obviously not nearly as bad as 6, 7, 8, 10 if I sold out everything at the bottom here. But yeah, that was just a huge wake-up call for me. Like, I need to be careful. But anyways, going back to recycling properly, let's say that I did recycle properly on the way down, and I just kept getting cut up. I tried to take this bounce, size and more, thinking this was a 1, size and more, thinking this was a 1 on all these attempts. Okay, I take a grand, let's say up to a grand loss coming down, finally size in properly here, make back about 500. I wait, hoping for it to go further back to VWAP. This fails again, so now since I lost 1,000 here, made back 500, I'm down net 500. Then I wait for the confirmation for it to actually be to break through to the bottom. I cut, so I take another 1,000 loss. Now I'm down 1,500. Let's say I size in properly here, because now I've cut everything. I could take big size with a way lower average price, ride that up, make back 1,000. So we're still down 500. Then, you know, you have this happening. Then you have it fail again. The whole day, let's say I'm recycling, even though ultimately a lot of these dips are failing, I'm capitalizing on the bounces where I need to and accumulating the most shares at the lowest price so that I can get the best range, so I can make back the loss. And then let's say I see the bottom here. I'm like, all right, I look at the big picture, how much it's faded. I take some more contracts here, and then I get this bounce. I would have surely, if not green, at least had a much smaller loss. But I'm kind of rambling because like it was unbelievable. Like, it was such an amateur newbie thing to do, kind of shameful in many ways. And like, I was kind of embarrassed to even post on Instagram and shit. But I'm like, look, I'm posting all my wins. I'm posting all the progress I made. So I gotta post this. Like, this is what happens in trading when you think you have it all figured out, but you don't. So I'm hoping I don't have to make a video like this again. Like, one thing I'll say about this too is that I had a feeling in my mind that I hadn't had for a while, like months. That this awful feeling I used to have when you know that all the cards are stacked against you, and like there really is nothing you can't take. There's no trades you could take to recover that. Like, everything has just fallen so down negatively in terms of your profit, that there's nothing you could do within the next hour, couple hours, days, weeks that could bring that back to break even. And it's just that feeling like, oh my gosh, looking forward, like how long is this going to take for me to get out from this hole? Like that feeling of being so deep in the hole that I know from months ago in the summer, like from having days where I lose thousands in a day just staring and just not knowing what to do next. And that feeling came back for a couple hours when this was happening. And oh my gosh, I don't want to feel that way again. Just knowing, just anticipating that feeling, and just also just preserving profits. So right now it's Christmas Eve, and you'll hear about what happened after that when I do my December recap. But after this, my plan was to be more protective of my profits, obviously, and not to keep being ambitious was the sizing up on the QQQ dips, especially. Everything else with penny stocks I've been pretty good at, because since I've been focusing more, since a bulk of my profits have been coming from QQQ, I take bigger size and more risk with the QQQ, and then I go to the penny stocks after. But it's clear with the QQQ on the dip buying contracts, I should not be sizing up yet, and also I should be following what the chart is telling me, the trends. I knew what was going to happen. It's like I knew I had the prediction going into this. This is due for a pullback. I was even thinking maybe I shouldn't even trade the QQQ today, which was on the 18th. And yet I still did. So obviously it's going to take evaluating my psychology and just my mindset and how I approach things, and making sure that if I do get caught in something like this, it's with way less size. Anyways, I hope you are enjoying your holidays. I don't know if this video is going to come out before Christmas or after, but have a Merry Christmas if Christmas already happened. I hope you had a great Christmas, and I hope your December is going great. Let's close the year strong. Be back soon.